Hey yo, salute to all my subscribers. Shout out to everybody else passing through. YouTube, what's good? So I just came through to check in with you all. Wanted to put up another video. Been a little while, and basically what I just wanted to go in a little bit about today is criminal justice system. Talk a little bit about criminal background checks, things that might affect you, as far as employment is concerned. Um, there's a major flaw in the criminal justice system, period, pertaining to people who previously committed any types of offenses that might result in there being a felony on your record. There's a major flaw pertaining to people who do things at a certain point in their life. And I'm not talking about murder, rape, anything like that. Those are obviously more serious issues that I think um, there's really no time period where you could argue and say, this happened 10 years ago or this happened 15 years ago, and it really shouldn't be something that should, hold me back or penalize me, you know, 2 decades later or, a decade later. There are certain crimes that I feel like, regardless of who's looking at it, regardless of what your, faith is or kind of person you are, there are certain crimes against other people that I feel like are not redeemable. That you could never come back from. But the majority of the people who are in the criminal justice system, who are on record, who are, have a file on them that follows them for the rest of their lives, um, I don't think fall under that category. I think the majority of people who get filtered out, from potential well-paying jobs or from being able to have a certain career path, depending on what that career path is, obviously. I think it's unfair that something that you do at, let's say, 18 or 19 should affect you at 30 or 35, and beyond that. I think, especially now, we live in a time now when you know the way that the digital age works. You know that anything that you do can be tracked and will stick with you. But for anyone who's in my age group, anyone from the age of 30 and up, back then, you did things as a kid, or just being young and stupid and just not really having a vision yet for the future for what that would look like, and not really taking into consideration what potential things that you would do at that age that could or would affect you 10, 15, or 20 years later. And it was a different time, where we didn't have the advances in these different systems that are able to track people. It was still around back then, but it's obviously way more advanced now. Um, you know, and there's so much weight put on people who um, apply for a job or apply for different things, and they do background checks and these different things, and they look at a person who comes up with not having a background, criminal record at all, as being better than a person who does have one. And depending on what that record is, I don't necessarily agree with that presumption by the system itself. Just because you have a criminal record doesn't mean that you're any less trustworthy than a person who doesn't. And just because you don't have a criminal record doesn't mean that you're more trustworthy than a person who doesn't. All a criminal record indicates to me is you're on record for having done something that you shouldn't have done, was illegal. You might be regretful of it. You might be, in a different space than when that event or incident occurred. But it doesn't necessarily have a bearing on the person that you are 10 years later, 15, 20 years later. And I think the problem with the criminal justice system is that even though it's promoted as being a system designed to rehabilitate people who commit illegal offenses, it's really not that at all. It's really not meant for that at all. It's meant to pigeonhole you and put you in a category that almost always immediately disqualifies you from having any type of opportunity that would allow you to get ahead in life. Of course, there are situations, there are one-offs where people are able to turn those situations around, but some way, shape, or form, those issues will always come up. And the question isn't, should it? Because you should 100% be penalized and be held to account for anything that you do as an adult. The issue is, how long should that be the case, right? There are statute of limitations on every crime in the criminal justice system except for murder, rightfully so. But once you're convicted of something, there's no statute of limitations on how long that something can stay on your record. That's the part that I don't agree with. I think that once someone commits a crime and they are held accountable for that, and they quote unquote pay their debt to society by completing whatever sentence was imposed on them, I think that there should be a time clock. There should be a period of time after that offense is at its resolution to where that thing can no longer affect you. But clearly, that's not what occurs. A company, an organization outside of the court system, outside of law enforcement, should not be able to see something that you did 10 plus years ago, 15 years ago, even 7 years ago, when making decisions like employment, things that are employment related. They should not be able to, because I don't see the purpose that it serves. If you have something on your credit report, there's a certain period of time where that thing will no longer negatively affect you. If you have points on your driver's license and you get an increase to your insurance policy and things like that, there's only a certain period of time that those things can affect you. If you file for bankruptcy, depending on what chapter you file, there's a certain period of time for that thing to affect your credit, to where you can start to rebuild that reputation again. It only seems to be the criminal justice system that does not offer, unless you're a minor and it's a juvenile record, there's really nothing that really will allow you to kind of reconcile and start back over and build that reputation. And I don't feel like that is in line with the American way. Just my take. Plan on doing a whole podcast about it in the next coming weeks. Let me know what y'all think about this topic. Didn't want to make this one super long. Just some shit that I was thinking about, so I wanted to come through and drop this off here on this platform, because this is what this platform is for. Let me know what y'all think. I don't pretend to know everything. I just know what I know. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace and love.